Let's go into a little bit of pruning and care of trees. I didn't bring any pruners with me today, but I want to talk about just cutting. I'm sure we have some in the audience, but I just want to, the main thing I want to talk about is how to make proper cuts. Years ago, when I first got into this industry, the trend was to make what they called flush cuts on trees. Just make a straight cut down along the tree. We don't have any branches big enough here, but say for example, if you're going to cut this branch off, the thinking was that you would cut it straight down along and get it as close to the trunk as you could. And I guess what I'll do here is give you a little bit of a diagram. And my artwork's not real good. I studied forestry, not art, but I've drawn a few of these over time. All right, just to give you an example here, if this is your tree, you got a branch going off of it and you want to prune that branch off, and this is pretty accurate as far as the relationship of the trunk versus the branch. You will tend to have a swelling around the base of the branch that's coming in. So if you were going to prune this limb off, years ago they would say to cut down here, make it a flush cut, and cut it down as far as you could. What ended up happening when you made a cut like that is that the tree would respond. And you all got to understand this now. Anything you do to a tree, it's going to respond to what you've done to it. It's growing in an environment, you do something to change that, it's going to respond to it. Okay, so when you flush cut this tree, the tree would start to callus, it would start to heal over that wound that you created. But what ended up happening is that you would get decay working in from this wounded point that would go down in the tree and actually up in the tree, and it would spread going into the center of the tree. What we found out, and the guy that did most of the research on this was Dr. Al Shigo, worked for the U.S. Forest Service for many years. But what he found out, he theorized and then actually proved it through all his studies over the years, is that this swelling that's at the base of this limb is actually part of the main trunk of the tree, not part of the limb. And it goes to how the tree grows and how it supports that limb on the side of the tree. But what he figured out is usually when you have a branch growing, you're going to have what's called a branch bark ridge. It's basically where the bark of the trunk and the bark of the limb meet, and you've got a ridge of extra bark in there. And from that point down to where the limb tapers down, this is actually a good diagram of where, excuse me, where you need to cut, because this is all tissue that's part of the trunk of the tree.